The Tampa Bay Lightning continue their road trip and look to continue their winning ways when they travel to Columbus to take on the Blue Jackets. What can the Lightning do to continue their win streak?
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to Locked On Lightning. I'm Josh Sperber, thanking all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, then this is the show for you. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel because you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And we are going to get started with the Lightning taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning taking on the Columbus Blue Jackets for the first time this season, a team that the Lightning have had a whole lot of success against. And according to FanDuel, they are favored against the Blue Jackets. And I think that is with good reason. You take a look at the standings. Lightning are a team climbing in that Atlantic Division. The Blue Jackets are among the league's bottom feeders, currently sitting at 16 points, 8th in the Metropolitan Division. Only the Predators and Blackhawks have fewer points than the Columbus Blue Jackets. They are also tied with San Jose for the third worst point total in the National Hockey League. And this is a team that the Lightning have had a lot of success against, especially Andrei Vasilevsky has had some great games in his career against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Nikita Kucherov has 40 career points against the Jackets as well. And the Lightning 33-15-1 all time with a winning record on the road, 11 total losses, 1 in overtime, and 14 wins for the Lightning against Columbus. They won 2 of 3 last season, and this is another season series that I think you'd expect the Lightning to come out on top. And it's kind of a trap game right now, just the way it's placed. The Blue Jackets have struggled to start the season. The Lightning have been playing really well, especially of late. And it's just not a time that you want to end your winning streak. If you're going to end a streak, you want to do it against a playoff team. The Lightning have a couple of playoff teams on the menu next week, really beginning on Saturday. They've got a pretty tough stretch of games with Dallas, then Colorado and Washington at home, a quick trip to Nashville, and then back home for a date with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And those are just some really tough playoff teams ahead. Lightning have already beaten the Avalanche and the Capitals this season. They've already lost to the Maple Leafs once. So this is the last game. I don't want to call it an easy game, but it's the Lightning's last game against a subpar team in a month. I'm still not counting the Predators as that. I think they just have enough star power that they can come alive really at any time. But you can, another road game there. Technically, the Predators are among the bottom feeders in the league, but I don't think the Lightning are going to be taking that game lightly with Steven Stamkos lining up on the other side. But I think obviously the focus is on Columbus now, and it's a team that I think the Lightning match up really well against. And they play them twice at Amalie Arena, once in December, once in March this season. So it'll be a good test. The Lightning are better on the power play so far this season, slightly worse on the penalty kill. They're really above or at the level, essentially, of these Columbus Blue Jackets in just about every statistic. And I certainly trust the Lightning goaltenders a lot more than two goalies with losing records like the Columbus Blue Jackets have. But I think the Lightning They definitely need to keep up the way they've been playing been playing defense, the way that they've passed the puck lately. Really, a lot of the changes that they made, a lot of the adjustments that they made during that week off are just continuing to help the the Tampa Bay Lightning. And that means the shift changes need to stay tight. The passing really needs to stay tight. Something that I talked about in the last episode was just the Lightning seem to be making too many extra passes, especially when they're getting in tight on the goal, making a nice run towards the net. You see a little too many extra passes from the Lightning sometimes, and that's something that they're going to have to limit. Though, as a whole, I think the passing has been significantly better for Tampa Bay the last couple games, but it's still something they can get crisper. It's still something that they can just keep working to make better. And it's something that's going to be key. Passing and defense are two ingredients to a win. Usually, if you pass well, if you defend well, those are usually two categories that if you have are passing more effectively against other teams while playing good defense, that's a good recipe to win games. And obviously, that is what the Lightning are going to Columbus to do. Tampa has been a better team at home this season. They are coming off of a road win, though, and they're looking to make themselves 500 at home on this 3-game win streak after their fourth, or 500 on the road, excuse me, the fourth road win of the season, coming in dramatic fashion against Pittsburgh. The Lightning coming from 2 goals down. I don't think that they're going to get into that same hole, but it's certainly something that the Lightning should try to avoid. I know that seems pretty obvious and self-explanatory, but the Lightning play better when they're aggressive early on in games. And I think in a lot of ways that success has been most evident in the early goings of games on the offensive side when the Lightning play aggressive and they, put a lot of pucks on net and they, get out to a hot start on offense, get a bunch of early chances. That is something that the Lightning, I think, can do on defense as well. Just get physical with the teams. I think the last couple of games, the Lightning have been a little bit more physical. I know that last home game against the Devils was starting to get pretty chippy as the Lightning were really seeming to fight back against a Devils team that is among the NHL leaders in hits. And the Lightning have started to play more physical on defense lately, and I think that it's been really helping their defense, just being a bit more aggressive and upping the physicality on the defensive side of the puck. I think was a big reason that the Lightning had so much success at home against two of the top teams in the NHL. They shut down Winnipeg despite letting up 1 goal, and the Devils game was even more dominant in that shutout. I mean, that was also just another great performance from Andrei Vasilevsky. But I think even he responded to an increased aggression from the Lightning defenders. I think it helped kind of motivate him and clear the ice. I guess he's just able to see the puck so well in that last game, and I'm sure the Lightning are expecting another big game from him as well. But I mean, they really have to treat this like a trap game because it could be. Columbus has not been great this season, 7-9-2, 24th in the league in goals allowed per games played. Uh, Low point differential in the negative numbers significantly. I mean, this is a team that the Lightning should be able to beat. And if they're gonna get back to the postseason, you really have to beat the teams that are below 500 that have played more games and they have scored points. Um, these are just the games that the Lightning have to win. I think that they are going to do it. Um, it's certainly a team that the Lightning can match up well against and beat. So I predict a nice win for the Lightning, but they can't get cold in Columbus. This is just a game that they should win if they want to get themselves to the playoffs. We are going to talk about the Lightning's playoff hopes in a little bit as we approach the quarter mark of the NHL season. But the Lightning are expected to get another player back from injury today. That is former Blue Jacket Cam Atkinson. We'll spotlight one of the newest bolts right after this. Get ready to tackle the NFL and NHL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NHL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And there are some people that use live events, live games to fuel their betting a little bit. That is not usually something that I do, but when I go to live games, I use the Game Time app. Right now, Game Time has an exclusive zone deal for the NHL Winter Classic event at Wrigley Field. You can go to the Game Time app to purchase tickets and get 10% off of bleacher seating and 20 to 25% off of home plate area seats at one of sports' most iconic venues. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Welcome back into Locked On Lightning. Still Josh Sperber here, and we're talking about Cam Atkinson, a guy who is expected to play against his former team, a 6th-round draft pick of the Blue Jackets in 2008. It took him about 3 years to make his way to the NHL, where he spent 10 seasons, played the majority of his career, 781 games with the Blue Jackets. Last 2 years, he was on the Flyers. A trade for Jacob Voracek back in 2021 sent him away from his first team. And Cam Atkinson has missed every game since playing his former team in the Philadelphia Flyers. But for the first time as a member of the Lightning, he'll go against the team that drafted him in 2008 out of Boston College. And you might look at the stat sheet for Cam Atkinson and think that he's not so much of a key player. He's got just 1 assist, a -7 in plus minus, and has missed all of his 11 shots on the season so far. Atkinson, though, has surprisingly been the Lightning's most productive member who has played on the 4th line. He was on the 3rd line in practice yesterday and is expected to be on that 3rd line again during the game. I think the Lightning like having Isimon as just a younger, faster guy to inject a little bit more energy into that 4th line. And Atkinson, with a veteran presence playing alongside the rookie Connor Geekie, is certainly not a bad idea either. So I think the Lightning have they have enough depth that they can move guys around different lines and really just see where they work. I think that the 3rd line pairing for Cam Atkinson is solid, but I think regardless of his somewhat slow start this season, there's still a reason that we're talking about Cam right now, not just because he knows the Blue Jackets. He played for them for about 10 years, but it is more just symbolic almost of the Lightning healing from their injuries. Braden Point came back in a big way on Tuesday. And, I certainly don't expect 2 goals from Cam Atkinson in the same game. It's certainly something that he has the ability to do, but he has not been an aggressive scorer. He has been more intent on moving the puck around on the offensive side for the Lightning. And I think that having a nice veteran presence, a guy who's been around the game for as long as Cam Atkinson has, it's it's an opportunity to just have that, little bit extra experience, and just a guy who's done most things that you can do in the NHL. I mean, he's a guy who's just been around for a while, and it is also just kind of symbolic of the fact that the Lightning are getting healthier. Um, and that is always a good sign. The Lightning had some nagging injuries that, for the most part, were ironed out and healed over that off week. But now there's always going to be some kind of nagging injury. I think that's just a part of the game, unfortunately. But with Atkinson coming back after the Lightning saw a return from Braden Point in their last game, you just have more depth. Gage Gonzalez is still moving up and down from the Syracuse Crunch, and you'd like to be able to give him a more permanent home for a while, whether that's on the Lightning or on the Crunch, where he is the leader in points per game, has 6 assists in 5 games with the Syracuse Crunch, and has skated in 5 games with the Tampa Bay Lightning as well this season. But Cam Atkinson coming back might mean that Gonzalez is going to be headed back to Syracuse, because I think Atkinson's a guy that you just want to plug in the lineup. You want to use a guy with veteran experience, especially when you're playing his former team. You want to be able to put your best foot forward against any team in the league, regardless of the Blue Jackets' woes to start the season. And I think Cam Atkinson is certainly part of that. He's a guy who is already pretty popular in the locker room, and he is a guy who I think can provide important minutes. He's a nice physical forward, and certainly someone that I'm excited to see go up against a team that he played for so long. I think that's always just an interesting scenario when, even a couple years removed from him, like like Atkinson is the from the Blue Jackets, there's still some of those memories. There's still some of that. You still get some kind of feeling when you're, going into the same stadium that you started your NHL career in. And I think that's something that Atkinson can hopefully use to his advantage, and hopefully, pass on some of his knowledge about the Blue Jackets to his teammates, so that the Lightning can get their best foot forward and help win this game. I mean, regardless of how early in the season is, you just want to pick up every game you can. And when it's against a team that is lower in the standings and maybe a little bit overlooked, you don't want to look over them. But you want to beat them. These are the teams that the playoff teams should be beating. And I think Cam Atkinson is someone that can help the Lightning do that. But I mean, I think just as importantly, it's just good to see the Lightning coming back with their full lines. It was Perbix playing instead of Radish on defense, as the Lightning are seemingly going back to the conventional 12 forwards, 6 defenders, with Braden Point and now Cam Atkinson expected to come back from injury. So hopefully we'll see Cam play against his former team, as he is starting to get more comfortable with the Lightning, starting to really establish himself as a key role player on this franchise. And hopefully the injury time off is something that can help him, just give him something to bounce back from, and help him become an even more productive member of the Tampa Bay Lightning offense. And the Tampa Bay Lightning are in a division that had some shakeup. They fired head coach for the Boston Bruins after a tough start to the season for the boys in Beantown, putting the Lightning currently in third with 2 games in hand uh, compared to the Florida Panthers and Toronto Maple Leafs, who are ahead of the Bolts in the Atlantic Division. At about the quarter mark of this NHL season, how do the Lightning playoff chances stack up against the rest of the Atlantic Division? Prize Picks is the best place to get real money on sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You can just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot at up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks, where you can now win your money up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks, the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including the great state of Florida. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy so that your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. And Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. So join over 10 million users and sign up today. When you sign up today, you get $50 instantly when you play just 5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. And if you think that this is going to be the game where Nikita Kucherov is going to get his 900th point, that is something that you could pick. Get some hot takes, cook them up with your friends, and win real money this hockey season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. The code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDONNHL. Once you put it in the Prize Picks app, you can get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. And if you have joint pain, you should run right over to the Joint Chiropractic. They have 23 Tampa area locations, and each one is filled with a friendly and helpful staff that knows how to manage your pain. Frankly, I got some stretches done on my back when I went in there that I didn't really know the human body could move that way, or it could be stretched in that way. And I have been pretty much pain-free ever since. They gave me a stretching program that I have been following to keep the pain away, and a bunch of just tips that I could use to, adjust my posture and make sure that my back stays in tip-top shape. And whether it's your back, your knees, your neck, anywhere you have pain, take it on down to the Joint Chiropractic and get your first visit for $19 at Buccaneers.com/fans, contest and promotions. A $60 off value of what would normally be a first session. So make sure to check out one of the Joint Chiropractic's 23 Tampa Bay area locations if you need to manage your pain. Josh Sperber here, back on Locked On Lightning for the third and final segment of today's show. A little shakeup with the head coach of the Boston Bruins being the first coach to fall. The hot seat got a little bit too hot as the Bruins have played the most games of teams in the Atlantic Division, only team who have played 20 so far. But they are 5-4-2 at home, have a record under 500 at 8-9-3, and have allowed more goals than anyone in their division while scoring the second fewest for a Atlantic Division low plus minus of -21. So it has been a tough start to the season for the Boston Bruins, and that is something that I believe kind of opens the door a little bit for the Tampa Bay Lightning. When we previewed the Atlantic Division at the beginning of the season, it was a division that seemed dominated by the perennial 4 playoff teams that right now are still in position to make the playoffs. Florida leads by 1 point over Toronto with 2 games in hand. The Lightning are 4 points behind Florida, with Boston 2 points behind the Lightning, with Tampa having 3 games in hand over the Bruins. Ottawa and Buffalo tied in points in 5th. Red Wings and Canadians tied in points in 6, but 9 points separates the first and last place teams in the Atlantic Division. So, regardless of what's going on in Boston, it is a division that is still pretty much up for grabs. And I think the Lightning really should treat it as such. They shouldn't, just let the fact that it has been pretty much the same 4 playoff teams in the Atlantic Division for the past few years. But the Lightning already have themselves in a good position in third place. They've played 3 fewer games in the rest of their division. And it's just a good spot to be in. The Lightning have a little bit of an advantage, I think, having played fewer games so far, just because they can make up that ground. I mean, 2 wins. And the Panthers, if they get 2 wins, they're tied with the Panthers in first place. They get those 4 points. It's just there's just a path. It really seems, maybe even for the Lightning, to get into first place. I think that the Maple Leafs game in about a week is going to be a big test for the Lightning. It's a team that Tampa struggled against earlier in the season when they went to Toronto, but they'll have the Thanksgiving break a little bit. Not much of a break for the Lightning next week with a game every other day. That started really on Tuesday. A day off in between the Penguins game, the Jackets game, a day off in between just about every game until the Thanksgiving weekend games in Nashville and then back here in Tampa Bay. But I think the Lightning, need to use this opportunity, though, regardless of the toughness of their schedule for the rest of the month. They've got a chance to really put some distance between themselves and the rest of the Atlantic Division. I could certainly see teams like the Ottawa Senators maybe start to challenge for that spot in Boston, for that 4th place spot. I mean, the rest of the Atlantic Division seems to open wide, and the Lightning should be a team on the other side. They should be a team that is just kind of looking from the top and seeing that there's some turmoil at the bottom of the division, but that's something that can only help the Lightning, I think, right now. I think the Bruins firing their head coach is obvious, is going to be a boost to not just the Lightning, but really the rest of the teams in that division. Having a coach fired this early in the season is not something that's really easy to respond to when you're a player. And the Lightning need to just keep on winning. They need to keep doing what they're doing and take advantage of the fact that the division is a bit more open. I think the Lightning should be able to climb playoff spots. I had them as the 4th team in the Atlantic Division, but still in the playoffs at the beginning of the season. I mean, I think the Lightning can change that. I think the Lightning can certainly climb up if the Bruins continue to struggle and maybe even play themselves out of a playoff spot. But I think that the Lightning are a contending team in that division when it comes to postseason. And depending on, how consistent their defense gets and if their passing continues to improve and everything like that, they could be a real dark horse when it comes to the postseason. Right now, they're kind of a little higher end than middle of the pack, but it's still a good position for the Lightning. Not just because they've played the fewest games, but they've got a chance against some non-divisional opponents to really make up ground before they get back to their division with that game against the Maple Leafs at the end of the month. And then the Lightning have some Western Conference teams on their schedule to start off December. But I think the Lightning are in good position right now. You want to be in that top 4, and the Lightning are certainly on the higher end, I think, of those top 4 teams. They've been playing really well of late, and a win continuing their streak here against Columbus could only help before a huge test at home against the Dallas Stars coming up on Saturday. That is something we will talk about on tomorrow's show. For tonight, I am going to sign off by thanking all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen today. And now for your second listen, make sure to check out Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get to the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steele and Flip. find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get them, please make sure to give us a follow, a like, a subscription. We do appreciate your support, as this show is for you guys, the fans. So thanks again for tuning in once again. This is Josh Sperber signing off, and hoping that all of you guys have a great start to your Thursday, and hoping, of course, that the Lightning get another win tonight. Thanks again for tuning in. Please give us a like, a follow, a subscription. But most importantly, enjoy your Thursday.